Is Sony about to revolutionize the way that we play older video games on modern video game systems?
Take!
A recently revealed patent from Sony has basically shown off a new way to take old video games and bring them on modern systems. Now, what's really cool about this is it's not just the same backwards compatibility we've seen time and time again. Now the idea is when you take an old video game, like let's say something from the PlayStation 4, and play it on what could be the PlayStation 5, that game may actually improve itself by having certain assets that have been cleaned up and repaired. Now, this is an interesting concept because a lot of money has been spent into making older video games kind of refurbished and remastered, but if you were able to take the exact same game asset, have the exact same old code, and just update some of the graphics through a little digital update online, well, that's basically what Sony's talking about here, is what we expect anyway.
Yeah, so basically, just to simplify what you said there, the assets are given kind of a code, and if the developer, designer wants to take that code and make, let's say it's an asset, if they want to make an up-resed version of it or change it in some way, they can just make a new asset and they can use that same code title on it, and then it's automatically swapped within the software itself.
Yeah, now see, this is a really big deal because right now the PlayStation 4 Pro technically does 4K, but it's more or less checkerboarding. And there's a lot of graphics artists out there that are designing very high quality textures, just like they did in the past. And when they had those high quality textures, they couldn't fit them onto the games themselves because there wasn't enough memory, so they'd have to make compressions and stuff like that. So what you're getting here is basically the idea that an old game, no matter how old it is, could be brought forward on the PlayStation 5 and easily updated to make not only a higher resolution version of it, but increase textures and maybe a whole bunch of other things. Now, we're primarily talking about images and graphics, but this could also be relevant to sound effects and music quality and a whole bunch of other things.
It sounds like the patent could do multiple things. So this patent was made in 2016, and it was made shortly before a pretty, an interesting remaster was released.
I think it was.
Parappa the Rapper. A few months before that was released. We're assuming that this patent was made because of that game, because they were taking a PS1 game, Parappa the Rapper, and they were just giving it textures to make it a 4K game to play on the PS4.
Yes.
And that same patent was used with a couple of other games as well. There's a Patapon remastered, a great game on the PSP, better graphics again, and then Loco Roco as well had a remaster, and supposedly the same tech was used there.
And these games are really 2D games. I mean, Parappa the Rapper is technically 3D,
it's
but
2D and 3D kinda.
It's a little bit something different. But what's so cool about this is basically a company can save a lot of time and energy by making a remaster, but what's really awesome is taking games you already have in your library and getting an upkick in resolution or graphics quality by just getting the next system. Now, this brings a lot of interesting little bits of conversation that we have to talk about, because now we have to talk about the realism of basically having to pay for an upgrade, because this might be something that Sony may want to charge for.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. So we have seen updates to games, like better texture packs and things. I believe like Horizon had a texture pack released.
There's been like variations of things where the games will look different from the PlayStation 4 to the PlayStation 4 Pro.
So we've seen freebies more so than anything else. But yeah, it does raise the question, like, will they offer a service like PlayStation Now that's only like up-resed texture or up-resed experience specific, which is possible. So if the PS5 architecture is the same or has the same base architecture as the PS4 architecture, there's a really good chance that there's going to be this sort of backwards compatibility like carried through. But do you think they're going to be like implementing this possibly into older games beyond?
This is the interesting spot.
Or before the PS4?
See, okay, so what we have to really talk about here isn't just backwards compatibility with the PlayStation 4. I think Adam and I have talked about this a lot, and we've talked about this with you guys quite a bit in the comments below. Yeah, everyone pretty much assumes that PlayStation 4 games are going to make their way onto PlayStation 5. I believe this patent specifically talks about not only the assets we saw when it came to Parappa the Rapper coming back, but also having modern games that are on the PlayStation 4 right now being brought over to the PlayStation 5 and giving gamers a reason to get it on the PlayStation 5, right? If your entire library on the PlayStation 4 suddenly will just look better on the PlayStation 5, whether it be with stronger or higher frame rates, higher quality resolutions, better looking textures in general, then yeah, I think that's going to be a big thing that people are just going to want to get into. But at the cost at this one moment right now, I don't think we're going to see PlayStation 3 games.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, like, that's something different.
That's why I raised that question. I think it's going to be mostly PS4 titles moving forward onto the PS5. I think the Parappa the Rappa and the Loco Roco and all that was just a very specific sort of test to bring over those legacy titles.
Yeah.
But I think this patent could work more between those two, especially because, like I said, the architecture could be so similar, and those are so, like, they're more like PC-based hardware pieces than the previous consoles, which were so finicky.
See, here's the thing. The idea of actually having the PlayStation 5 run PlayStation 3 games, I mean, those games, in my mind, they're still not terrible looking.
Right.
You know, they're still pretty nice quality looking games.
Yeah.
I think that the resolution and frame rate is what was the bottleneck for many of those games there. But I think that I don't believe Sony would be willing to take those old disc games and move them over to the 5. I think maybe digital downloads would happen.
Well, so here's my thing, if I can interrupt you just for a sec. PlayStation Now is a thing.
Yeah.
Do they want to completely get rid of that? Because PlayStation Now already does some PS3 games, some PS2 games.
That's true.
No PS1?
There's we have PlayStation 1 a bunch of
Anyway, what I'm trying to say, though, is they already have a service implemented so that you can play PS3 games.
Yeah.
And there's like, what, over 600 games on that service right now. So I really do think that this is them looking at maybe like Xbox and saying like, okay, no, they're jumping back on backwards compatibility, where Sony used to be all about it, right?
Yeah.
And so maybe this is them like getting back into that sort of landscape as well, taking this tech.
Microsoft has this amazing package right now for gamers that's available where they can just play all of their older games on their modern systems, right? Mm-hmm. So you can play your original Xbox games and 360 games. Not every game in the library, but quite a few.
Yeah, many of the popular ones.
And I really feel that if Sony were to release a PlayStation 5 that didn't have PlayStation 4 backwards compatibility, it would harm them. Especially when Microsoft is really throwing this out there, going, look what we can do. And I feel like your library just goes away. And I know a lot of gamers were not happy. Me specifically, too. I didn't like buying all these PS3 games and then not being able to play them on the 4. It sucked. And I know everyone hated that. So this would be a great way out of that by just going, look, you're going to get your same games, but they're going to look even better on the system, which is what Microsoft is doing.
Yeah, it's nice. It would be nice if they can guarantee that immediately. But one thing that we have to consider is that with the PS4 going over to the PS5, it's not like there's like some big Sony production facility where they're making all these textures and assets and things. It's going to be the responsibilities of many of these developers, I would assume.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, they would have to implement some sort of program maybe where they're like, we'll toss your studio an extra however many dollars to continue these legacy titles upon the next platform.
And let's like take this into a whole other direction here, folks. If game developers don't want to do that, okay, that's going to be a problem in and of itself.
Who's to say they want to?
Yeah.
Maybe they want to move on.
They've got their good assets, okay, the ones that they didn't compress. There are many game designs out there that are like that. But how about this? Those assets take space, and that means you're going to be downloading what essentially are high-definition texture packs and putting them on a hard drive that might not be that big. I do have a lot of experience with high-definition texture packs because I'm a PC gamer, right? That's how we roll. We got 4K texture packs. We have much higher resolution texture packs. I've seen it with a whole bunch of different games. Sometimes you can't even tell the difference. Oh, I'm told it's higher quality, and I look real close, but you really can't see it sometimes. But it really comes down to those minor details that just, those things that people really want to see, but typically it takes really powerful graphics cards. And if we're going to be seeing something like this on the PlayStation 5, they're going to need a lot of horsepower, they're going to need a lot of RAM, and they're going to need quite a bit of space on the hard drive. And, at that point, and you're using all these resources, I think Sony is going to want to charge for it.
Yeah, I would assume so. I was really expecting you to jump right into like, but if it's a streaming device,
okay. Well, see, that's the thing. If it's a streaming device, I don't know
if they're going to do that though.
No,
right?
because the interesting part about streaming right now, technically, they could be playing PlayStation 3 games better through streaming than they are than how they exist right now. And the word on the street from everyone is that streaming is what the next consoles are all going to be about.
Yeah. We have more evidence from Microsoft than anyone else, but it seems like streaming is what everyone's talking about.
And I mean, of course, right? This is a very easy way to get into the market, because if you can make the console dirt cheap and you stream all the games from some server somewhere, I know plenty of you out there don't want that. Me personally, I don't want that. I want the console to be running it because I want that uninterrupted experience. But for many consumers out there that have access to very fast or high internet connections, they can get on and play those games without any issues. But boy, I just don't see them doing this. Having them fix those assets from one side means that they're going to see a compression artifact from the video of the game being played streamed to you, so you might not be able to see those really high quality resolutions coming out. I mean, when it comes to 4K gaming, those really beautiful like images and stuff, you see that because it's basically coming at your screen uncompressed. The moment it's being streamed, you're going to lose some quality.
You're creating some sort of a bottleneck, is basically what you're saying.
Yeah.
So, whatever this tech is, it seems to point more towards the PS5 not necessarily being a streaming device, I guess.
That's what I would assume, because if you were to talk about something like this, that sounds like something... I mean, this patent could definitely be used for streaming, but in my mind, if you're going to be doing something like this, it sounds like if you have some software that is replacing assets...
Yes.
That sounds like it's in the consumer's hands, right?
Right.
It sounds like, okay, you've got the disc or you've got the file, you install it on your system, and now you're going to get this update patch.
Right. Yeah, you can go on to some online store, or they offer like an online service where you can just kind of switch things up, have the code switched.
Sony is in the lead right now, so they have every reason to do whatever they want because they will define the course of this. But I believe because Microsoft is already actively, aggressively going towards this mark, where you've got really impressive looks of Xbox 360 games looking fantastic on Xbox One X, I cannot believe at all that Sony would be willing to charge for this unless they were willing to lose a huge chunk of consumers. Because all Microsoft has to do, especially if this is revealed at E3, whoever goes first at E3 talking about these next consoles, if one goes, an HD pack, $5, and Microsoft comes, HD packs, free, right?
Yeah.
It can be a game changer and really define people's experiences with this with a whole bunch of really good marketing. So I personally think Sony is going to charge for this.
We don't know 100% for sure that this patent is specifically a thing that's going to be implemented into the PS5. But I do believe that this is a great leg for Sony to stand on because of, like you said, Microsoft coming forward with all this backwards compatibility. It is like one of the best one-up sort of things that Microsoft has in their bag right now. And if Sony can kind of take that and bring that to their console as well, it's like, well, what do our competitors have that we don't? We're on top right now, and we're offering exactly what they offered last time.
You know, I think a really great way to look at this is the way the PlayStation 4 Pro exists right now. It exists as kind of a halfway point between a PlayStation 4 and a PlayStation 5. And the games do run better on that system, but not much better. Yeah. You know what I mean? You'll get stronger frame rates, but you're not getting like super high resolutions and stuff like that. But with the Xbox One to the Xbox One X, there is a tangible difference. But it's being held back by having the games have to be able to run initially on the Xbox One base platform itself. When the next Xbox comes out, they're going to have no cap there. They'll be able to do whatever they want. And when the next PlayStation 5 comes out, the same thing will happen. What is really going to largely define these systems and how they are approached by consumers is the backwards compatibility and how those games run. If you tell me tomorrow, okay, PlayStation 5, you pick it up, every single game in your collection is going to run at a higher resolution, is going to run at a more consistent and stronger frame rate, and essentially is just going to look like basically a remastered game without you having to pay a dime. Oh, I'm there day one. That would be a great way to get people into the next system, because there is this kind of fear that people might not want to be getting into the next consoles because a lot of money is being spent on these things and they seem to be going by really quick. But folks, what do you think? Do you believe that the PlayStation 4 5 is going to have 4 or 5. We're just going to call it 5. The PlayStation 5.
The PlayStation 10 is going to be backwards compatible with the 9, 8, 7, and 6.
Jeez, the number system. Do you think the PlayStation 5 is going to be backwards capable and have these amazing updated textures?
Yeah. Do you think we're going to see more than just PS4 games? Are we going to see more legacy titles like they tried to do with a few of those PlayStation 1 and PSP games?
Yeah, I mean, geez, imagine if Metal Gear, the original, could have an update. That would be pretty impressive.
They could call it Twin Snake.
Yeah, they could. Hey, Konami, make that happen, all right? For everyone else, share your thoughts in the comments below.